You're too worried about the payment and not focused on the payoff. Burton Hughes. DZ Tribe, Josh Thomas, glad to have you. Hey, be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple or Spotify. This podcast is brought to you by Unbreakable Teams. We use a science-backed process to triple your company's productivity without additional costs so that you can buy back your time. To learn more about how we can help you dominate the next 12 months, head over to unbreakableteams.com. Once again, that's unbreakableteams.com. Hey, today's guest is Mitch Smedley. He is a master plumber with over 20 years in the industry, and he opened Smedley Plumbing in 2020 and has been growing ever since. Has one of the coolest taglines in all of existence: fixed pipes, pet dogs. Mitch, welcome to the Do Zone. Say what's up to the tribe and tell us something you believe is the key to getting stuff done that most people wouldn't think of.
Hey Josh, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's a blessing and an honor. So for me, I think the main thing that I do to get stuff done is I take care of everything as it comes in. So at our point in our business, I try to never leave something as a oh, I'll get to that, or oh, I'll get to that. If something comes in and it's in my channel, I take care of it immediately. If something comes to me and it's not in my lane, then I immediately delegate it off to the lane that it's supposed to be in. And I try to leave nothing just kind of hanging out there to do. So the to-do list is short, but the tasks come in fast.
Nice. I love that. And just it's you just have a short bin for storage.
Yeah.
And you dump that bin often.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
We were filming some YouTube videos today, and a couple of things came in, and I had to get rid of them. I had to tell my videographer, "Hold on, I gotta handle these right now, otherwise I may forget." So I just in and out.
And so you are relatively new to launching a business. You had a W-2 job for the longest time and decided, you know what, I can walk away from this and I can do my own thing. And I think that there's a lot of people in this audience that either have done that or would love to do it, or would at least love to hear the trials and tribulations and failures of somebody else that did
it. Yeah.
And so yeah. I'm curious, let's go back to that and let's talk about that inception of a decision to start a business when you have all this comfort and security of a job.
Yeah. We so like you said, I've been in the industry for a little over 20 years, and a lot of that has been managing large plumbing departments for other companies. And you manage one company. I was with one company for like 10 years and kind of started their plumbing department from its infancy. It was there, but it wasn't really doing much, and grow it to like 13 employees and doing some pretty admirable revenue. Left that company on great terms, went to a different company that was much larger, and they had like 21 employees, and they were doing a lot more admirable revenue. So I was there for about 18 months. Was not a very good cultural fit at that company. Was like a fish out of water, did not blend well with their culture. And so my time there was not as long as it could have been, but I was perfectly okay with that. Left there, and at that time I had the plans to start our own company, but I wasn't quite ready financially. And so I did a short tenure at a different company where they did not have a plumbing department at all. And I was given the opportunity to start a plumbing department for them. And so I had all this other, solid background of running large plumbing companies. This was my first chance to start one from the beginning. And within 7 months, we had them doing about $70,000 a month in revenue, and clicking right along in some fairly automated processes. And so that was all I needed to understand, that like I've done this really well for everybody else other than me. It's time that we do this for our family. And so April.
It's interesting that the last opportunity that you had was actually, well, hey, why don't you do a test run of starting your own business, but with training wheels? That was kind of a nice bonus. Oh. Well, so sorry about that. We had a little bit of a technical issue. So what I was saying right there at the end was it was an interesting opportunity that you got a chance to do a dry run of starting a business with the training wheels on because you started a plumbing department that didn't exist. It was almost everything that you wanted to do, but in the safety of a job.
Yeah, yeah, it was a really, really cool opportunity because I got to do, like you said, a dry run of everything that I wanted to do. I had already written all the processes out for how we were going to start our company. And so now I got an opportunity to do a test run of those processes with somebody else's money, essentially. And lo and behold, everything worked really, really well. And I made a few tweaks from that one to ours, but for the most part, everything worked perfectly.
That's great. And so basically you've just been flawless and you haven't made any mistakes. Is that right?
Yeah, right. I wish that were the case. So
So what are
we're
some
we're
things that you learned along the way when you did decide to take the training wheels off? And it sounds like you had a lot of momentum, you had a lot of experience, and you had a lot of opportunities to learn the lessons as you went, but not everything went as planned. So talk to me a little bit about some of those lessons you learned when you were out there figuring it out on your own completely.
Yeah, so we some of the hurdles that we've run into with our own company, you always run into a couple of hurdles with things like accountants and tax advisors and stuff like that. You put a lot of faith in those people, and you're hoping that they're doing the right thing. You vetted them well and everything else, but we did run into one big hiccup in our company where we were given some wrong information for about 9 months from our accountant, and then at the end of it, we're surprised with about a $40,000 tax bill that we were not expecting. So that was one of the larger hurdles we've had that we didn't really create ourselves. All the other hurdles that we've run into were hurdles that we kind of created ourselves by being a little different in how we operate. I have a videographer on staff, and my first videographer that I hired didn't really work out very well. It was a bad hire, and it took me a couple of months to figure that out. So that was kind of costly. But as we learn more about people, we do better as the time goes on.
So you're probably one of the very few plumbers that I know that has a videographer on staff. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, we realized early on that the way marketing is going and the way social media is going, it's no longer about taking some photo that you found online and attaching a little bit of wording to it and posting it on your social media as a way to get business. And so we also wanted to kind of diversify the company a little bit and do some YouTube stuff. And so I made the commitment early on to.
You're good.
Okay. Well, it just stopped and then started again.
Yeah,
So
I'd say we got a schizophrenic signal here, so it'll just
yeah.
keep it keeps everybody on their toes. They're like, I don't know when when
Yeah.
Mitch is going to stop in the middle of a sentence and just like disappear. But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
So
So
anyway,
yeah, we made the decision to do some YouTube stuff and everything else. And so we had I hired a videographer, and we started doing some promotional commercials, and we started doing some YouTube stuff. And we also used the videographer for like a little podcast that we do. And so we keep them really, really busy. And we didn't really know like what avenue was going to kind of take off and what avenue was going to be where he was valued most initially. But now we've kind of honed in on the fact that it's a really good play to have them hanging out in the YouTube space and having hanging out in the podcast space a little bit. So
that's great. And so you really took a different approach, and I'm curious. There's a lot of we would call this kind of home services profession. There's a lot of home service professionals out there that do not have the same opinion or the same perspective about promoting themselves and putting themselves on social media, hiring videographers and those sorts of things. And so why do you feel like that was the way that you went when so many of your peers would not go that way? And what kind of results have you noticed it creating for you?
Yeah, for us, a lot of it is kind of one of our modes that we operate from is a mode of transparency. We don't really hide anything from anybody, and we feel that's kind of part of the customer service product that we deliver. And so we didn't really have a problem, filming pretty much everything that we do and showcasing that. And so our videographer is like ridden around in the truck with me all day long, and we've posted those videos on YouTube. We've made some how-to videos and some tutorial type videos and stuff like that. And it just kind of goes to our general like customer service based approach of we want to be able to service customers not only here in the Kansas City area, but also all around the nation. And YouTube allows us to do that a little bit and kind of extend our reach. Behind the scenes too, there is some digital perks to that when you're increasing your internet footprint or your digital footprint, so to speak. It does help garner some attention for when people are searching for a plumber locally.
I see. And so are you able to serve people in other parts of the country, even though you're not able to go to their house? Is there still a way that you can do business with them?
Yeah, kind of vicariously through YouTube. So, one of the latest videos we released is probably like, if you don't know what if you're not a plumber, you won't know what this is, but it's probably one of the best videos on YouTube about thermal expansion. And so, anybody who's searching up thermal expansion is catching this video and they're asking tons of questions, and we're able to answer them and all of that stuff. And through all of the advertisements and everything that run on the video, we do see an income stream from that. So it starts out small and then it kind of builds like a snowball, but it's YouTube is definitely kind of a long play scenario.
Fascinating. And so you've been in business for a couple of years now for yourself. What are some of the lessons that you've learned that you might pass down to somebody who is just getting started? And you've got a couple of years. You've obviously done a lot of things right. You've been very, very deliberate and purposeful. What are some of the kind of key lessons that you might pass down to somebody that's a little bit behind you?
Yeah, the biggest lesson I would probably pass down is to make sure that you're doing your business for a profit. There's a lot of people that
What?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that like leave their jobs and their goal with their business is they hope to replace their income from their former job. And if that's all the higher your goal is, if you come up a little bit short, well, now you've done all of this for less than what you were making at your other job. And you've got all the other headaches. And so we set our goals big enough to make sure that it wasn't going to stay just a one-man shop. We wanted to grow it to the point where we could get a little bit hands off and get a little bit more of our freedom back and have a little bit more automation, maybe, if that's the right word, to where when phones come in and ring, we don't have to answer them every time. And when service calls need to be ran, I'm not having to be the one to run those every time. And so that's been the goal since day one. And if you have that goal since day one, even if you come up a little bit short, what coming up short in that is just it delays the timeline a little bit. So it makes it to where you have for sure replaced your income and you're actually building something that will be of some value someday.
I love that. Make sure you're running your business for a profit. And it's almost like, well, duh. But, I've worked with more than 5,000 entrepreneurs over a 15-year career directly with them. And the first goal that I usually get when I ask somebody, what are you trying to accomplish? I want to replace my income. That's the first goal.
Yeah.
And most people really don't think beyond that.
Right.
It's like, I have a job. And so how do I recreate the rewards that job gives me, but just without the job? And that's a very limiting box that you put yourself in. Somebody else defined at one point in the past, this is how much I'm worth. And then you're like, Yeah, seems legit.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with that number. I just don't want to have to work so much for it. But in reality, there is no cap on that.
Right.
I'm in a situation now to where I have a very specific money problem in one area. And I'm like, okay, I got to solve this money problem. And then I have multiple potential solutions. All of them are like big solutions. Like, wow, that could be a significant amount of income. And why couldn't I get it?
Right.
You know, I used to be a teacher, and the teacher version of me would be like, oh, that's way too much money.
That's too risky.
I'm not worth that.
Yeah.
Why would anybody pay me that much money in that little time?
Right.
But current me is like, yeah, I just need to bring on a couple more people to manage a couple of these things, and I can get all three of them. Why not?
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's kind of how we run our businesses. It's from a value-based standpoint. So the more value we can provide the customers, the more that we are worth, right? And the more that we can charge. And in the plumbing business, the charges are pretty high. It is what it is. We have a lot of overhead and we have a lot of costs, and we also take care of our employees really, really well with benefits and retirement and 401k and vacations and all of that kind of stuff. And so it all adds up to be pretty expensive. But if you approach it from a value-based standpoint, to where you're delivering enormous amounts of value to the customer, they're okay with the expenses because they're seeing tons of value. Whereas a lot of other companies, or maybe even smaller companies, they're just coming in and fixing the problem and leaving, and maybe not even fixing the problem all that well. So
I have a perfect example of that. I went out to dinner this past weekend, and I'm in Austin, Texas. Super hipstery, bougie, all kinds of stuff. I mean, we have McDonald's too, but it's just that nobody goes there. And so you can go to McDonald's and you can get a burger and fries, like an okay burger and fries for like, I don't know, $6-8, something like that. So this place I went, it's called Foreign and Domestic, and it is locally sourced, ethically farmed, farm to table, nose to tail, like all the hippie buzzwords you could imagine.
Right.
But I wanted to go there because they had they had one of the best burgers like that in town. And so I had heard. And so I get there. First of all, the place is hopping. I mean, it is hopping. It is full. And it's tiny. And everybody there is like happy and smiling and having a good time. The food was tremendous. It was very expensive. It was probably one of the most expensive burgers I've had in a while.
Yeah.
But when I got the bill said, we add 3% to every bill so that we can provide health insurance to our employees. And there were two things that happened to me there. First of all, I think it's cool that they wanted to make sure and provide health insurance to their employees. Second of all, I thought it was really cool that they wanted to tell me that.
Yeah.
As a customer, we're charging you a little bit more so that you get that person who is healthy and happy and glad to be serving you.
Yeah.
And that really stood out to me. Of course, I'll pay the 3%. What? I'm not a monster. Why? Right. I don't want you to be sick. I'll pay the 3%. It was like $1.30 or something. It was like nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. We, so like we have a rule in our company that you have to have 5 years of experience before you can work for us. And there's a lot of plumbing companies that may have like a training based philosophy where they want to bring in new guys and train them. And we kind of went the other way, where we want really experienced guys because our customers deserve that experience. And it's just so happened to work out in a way that of the 5 plumbers we have on staff, we have like 104 years of experience between the 5 of us. And so where our target was 5 years of experience or more, we land at 20 years of experience and more on average. And so that's pretty stinking awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah. More than a century of experience is pretty cool.
Right. Right. So, and when we do get customers that have questions about the bill and all of that kind of stuff, when we have those customers that have questions about the bill, we're able to tell them, we provide full-blown insurance for all of our guys. We provide retirement. We provide all of the things that they're looking for. And so we can keep these guys on staff for as long as we can. And that usually kind of calms down the customers' anxiety about the price once they realize how much we've invested back into our people.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you certainly are a different kind of thinker, one of the most unique plumbers I've ever met. So I'd love to get into the Do Zone diagnostic and see how that brain works. What do you think?
Yeah, fire away.
Awesome. So just 5 quick questions here that I ask every single guest. Number 1, Mitch, what's one thing that you do that keeps you focused on your goals?
For me, it's having a very basic routine for at least the first half of the day. I get up, go to the gym, eat breakfast, see my kids off to school, all of those kinds of things. And if I can start the day out with that kind of a routine, then typically the day is going to finish out fairly well. In our line of work, we don't really know how the day is going to play out. We start with a schedule. Some of our guys may run into a big issue on their first service call, and now we have to figure out what to do with the rest of their service calls, or whatever the case may be. And so it's kind of hard for me to plan the whole day, but if I can start with a solid routine in the morning and at least get me through about noon, then we're usually pretty good.
Nice. And how do you get back on track when you lose that focus?
So when I find that I've lost focus and lost kind of my bearings, for me, it's usually because I've started deviating too far from that morning routine, started sleeping in just a little bit, started changing my meals up or changing all of the things that I accomplish in the morning. And if I start slacking on those, it's crazy how fast things will come off the rails. And so, you what's the saying go? You're not tired because you didn't slow down because you're tired. You're tired because you slowed down. So, if I deviate from that morning routine too far, it affects everything.
Who's your support group and how do they keep you accountable?
So I've got 2 on there. One would be my wife for sure. She when they say opposites attract, it's pretty true in our case. I'm definitely a very much go getter, and she's all the time kind of having to pull back on the reins a little bit. And so she does a really good job of identifying when I may be reaching a little too far, or I may have a little too lofty of expectations, not necessarily goals, but how fast I think I can achieve something or something to that nature. And so she does a really good job of kind of keeping me grounded, and she runs the books for a plumbing company. So she knows it on the back end for sure. The other would be Apex. One of the neat things about Apex is it provides you like a mentorship or